series on things to think about when you're doing a comedy album. And this video is about where should you record your album. So where should the recording take place? What are some things you should think about? My recording took place at the Joke Joint in Lilydale, Minnesota, which was a fantastic club run by Rachel Wegscheid, Ken and Becky Reed, and they also owned a club in Houston. And the Joke Joint was great for lots of reasons. The owners were very amenable to recording. They totally supported artists. They were cool with changing the length of the show. So usually when you're doing a comedy show, there's a thing called the check drop, which is during the headliner set where the waiters come and they drop the checks off and then the audience kind of loses focus. So whenever you're doing a recording, you want to make sure that the check drop doesn't happen until you're done speaking. So it takes a little bit of the normal flow of the audience away when you're doing a recording. And then usually you want the MC to say, hey, everyone, we're on a recording. I had Jason Schomer open for me during my album recording. He was fantastic. He told everyone, your voice, your laughter might be on a Grammy-nominated album. Jason's good at setting everybody up like that. And so he reminded everyone to that we're recording it. So to try not to be super loud and to pay attention, and then reminded them too that when I was done with my set, he was going to come back up and do some more jokes while the waiters and waitresses handed out the checks. Because here's what happens. As soon as they get the checks, everyone forgets how to do math. They forget they ordered that many drinks. They start arguing with the table like, did you order that? I didn't order that. It's like a freaking nightmare, which is why it happens during the headliner set. So there's a couple things you have to change about the recording, and you want to make sure you find a space where the acoustics are amazing and the staff is amenable to working with you, because there's nothing worse than the staff dropping a tray of drinks and screwing up your recording, or loudly saying, what can I give you? What's your order? Like, everything about that recording kind of needs to change. The staff needs to be low tone. Someone in the room needs to tell people to shut up if they start having an argument or start being disruptive. On one of the album recordings that I did, this joke was the best that it was all weekend, but somebody literally knocked over a bunch of drinks at the back of the table, and then everyone has to go, oh, I'm sorry, blah. And it didn't bother me from the stage, but you could totally hear it in the recording, because part of the thing about an album recording is making sure you get the audience noise as well as the performer's noise. So remember, when you're doing an album, the end goal is to get a fantastic audio product. So you need to think about the space's acoustics, you need to think about the people management, and then making sure that the people who run the place are amenable to having a big audience. So that brings us to, and we have another video about that, but about building your audience and making sure you get fantastic people in the room for your recording. I, for example, in the months leading up to doing my album recording, wrote down notes of people with fantastic laughs, and then made a point to say specifically, can you please be there because you have a fantastic cackle? And they would go, yeah. And then I know that I've attended my friends' album recordings, and you just try to laugh harder for them on their jokes. I mean, here's the deal. When you're a comedian and you're listening to everyone practice their material over and over and over again, which inevitably that's they do, because that's how comedians get better, is you tell the same joke and figure out more tags or how to make it shorter, what accent you're going to use or act out or whatever, and how to make it better. Most comics have heard each other's jokes several times. But when they're recording an album, we sit there in the audience and we frickin' laugh hard because you're supporting your fellow people in comedy or coworkers. So you want to find people who are going to laugh really hard during your album recording, because you can hear it. Pat Sussmilch, actually, who is it? Dante Powell just released the album before me on the record label, and I just gave it a listen the other day. And there's this one moment where this lady goes, ah, like literally does like this, ah, and it was hilarious. And there's one where Patrick Sussmilch's album has an audience noise, a laughter, where the guy goes, nah. And so when you listen to an album over and over again, and when I buy them on iTunes, they end up being where you turn on your car and the first thing it plays is your iTunes. And for me, it's all comedy albums. So I end up listening to my friends' albums many times. You can hear all the audience members and you can hear their laughter. And sometimes what makes things funny, this is why the energy of a packed crowd is great, is that you're laughing louder because the people around you are laughing and your body thinks that's funnier. To me, it's the energy difference between when you go to see a movie in a movie theater and there's 5 people sitting far apart from each other, you may not laugh at all. But when you go on opening night and you guys are packed in together, which who knows when that's going to happen again, thanks COVID, the energy is totally different and everything is funnier and it's better and it's very weird. You just get in the energy. And maybe only extroverts feel that. I don't know if introverts enjoy that more or not, but I'm an extrovert. So I know the energy is much different. So you want to make sure you can control the audio, that it has good acoustics in there, that you can wire up mics to hear both the audience and yourself. And then also to what I just pointed out about the crowd placement, you want to make sure you can push them in close together so you can get that energy going. So whenever people seat the audience, this is one of those things that you don't think about until you see it go terribly wrong, push them up toward the stage and together. There's nothing worse. I know people like to be the cool kids sit in the back, but in a comedy audience, there's nothing worse than having, you know, the people in the light, it's just empty chairs, and then where it turns dark are these people laughing you can't even see. It's just a much better show if everyone sits close to the stage and they're packed in there. And you can also have the MC warn people like, hey, we wrote jokes, we're recording a comedy album, don't worry, we're not going to come at you. And please don't come at them or whatever. And it's just a good album. It just makes for a much better recording. So where you want to do it is a place that is amenable to comedy, knows you're doing an album, is going to help you get people in, is going to seat them appropriately, has a staff that's going to be quiet, has the ability to rig up stuff. The microphone is working and it's fully charged and is wired. That's very important because, as any comic will tell you, you go to some gig and they're like, oh, we have a wireless mic. The battery will always run out, or it will cackle, or it's just a freaking nightmare. And you don't want to battle tech when you're recording an album. So you want all that stuff to work flawlessly. The other thing I would tell you is it's very clever to record more than one show. So I did a Friday, Saturday night record, and I'm glad I did. I made the mistake of saying, hey everybody, I'm recording an album, thinking everyone would know that means we should show up. So Friday night was not very big. And then I went nuts on social media that Saturday and was like, please come to my night. And then I think people hear so much stuff on social media, they just sort of forget that it's important to you. And then when I sent all those personal messages out, the next night was freaking packed and it was perfect. But if that first night had been the only night we recorded, the album would sound a lot different. And I guess I needed a wake-up call on that. I wished I had had a video like this where someone told me, hey, getting people to show up to your album recording is super duper important. And we'll cover that in another video too. But hopefully that can answer some questions for you about where to do it. I have seen people do it in alternative places, right? So they've done short sets at Mike's. They've done that. Maria Banford did one in her living room in front of both of her parents, and that worked really well. So with COVID-19, you could put up a backdrop of a curtain and talk to the audience. Maybe that would be great too. Something that sounds awesome about live comedy albums is hearing the audience reaction. I really enjoy that. So you can invite some friends over. We did a live show with Caroline Skoog, and she had a bunch of people in the room, and they were laughing for her. They were her own laugh track. So you can be creative. The most important part is you want to make sure that your audio is conducive to people listening to it and not just turning it off. You want it to be pleasant enough where they're not annoyed by pops or crackles or any of that crap. If you have used a record label, they probably will take care of a lot of the logistics for you and the editing and make sure it sounds fantastic. If you're self-producing, you need to put some thought into that and make sure that whoever you hire to help you capture the audio is on top of all that stuff and can help, like, you know, make sure the crowd is quiet, make sure the wait staff knows the deal. So that's what I would do. I would definitely go with a club that has done it before and that the acoustics are good. Remember, low ceilings are better than cavernous high ceilings. And you want everybody sitting right on top of you if you can get that. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. You can write in the comments and let me know. And see you next time. Thanks.